Welcome to State of the Offense, your unbiased coverage of your favorite team's offense, the Chargers. With the Chargers' talent level on offense, their fans should always have high expectations going into any season. Last year, the Chargers finished 8th in total offense, 3rd in passing, 30th in rushing, and 13th in scoring, which earned them a 10-7 record and a loss in the wild card round of the playoffs. In the skill positions, the Chargers returned all of their primary playmakers from last year. Plus, they drafted wide receiver Quentin Johnston in the first round. Most fantasy football shows will only mention skill players, but at State of the Offense, we look at the entire offensive unit. We start in the trenches by analyzing the condition of the offensive line. The Chargers will bring back 5 of their top 6 linemen from last season. At left tackle, Rashawn Slater is back after his second season was cut short with a bicep injury in week 3. In his time on the field, Slater graded at an 86, which placed him as the number 9 left tackle in the game. Zion Johnson is the projected starting left guard for his second season with the team. As a rookie, Johnson graded at a 74 in 17 games, and he had a 99.3% snap share. Zion's grade from last year would place him in the 14 to 16 range of projected starting left guards. Center Corey Linsley returned to the Chargers for his 3rd season. Last year, Linsley graded at a 90, which makes him the 3rd best center in the game. Linsley played in 14 games last season with a 71.4% snap share. Linsley is signed through the 2025 season. His backup, Will Clapp, is back as well. For a 6th-round pick, Jamari Salyer's contribution to the team was fantastic. As a rookie, Salyer graded at a 73 in 14 games with an 81.9% snap share. Salyer is projected to start at right guard this year. His rookie grade places him in the 23 to 24 range of projected starting right guards. The Chargers retained Trey Pipkins to play right tackle. His deal keeps him signed through the 2025 season. Last year, Pipkins graded at a 68 in 14 games with a 75% snap share. His ranking is in the 24 to 27 range of projected starting right tackles in the NFL. The Chargers have invested plenty of resources into their offensive line, as evidenced with their re-signing of a draftee like Trey Pipkins for 3 more seasons, and they have invested 2 first-rounders recently on their left side of the offensive line. Rashawn Slater is an elite 24-year-old left tackle who will be protecting Justin Herbert for a long time. The guards are both going into their 2nd years, and they have a veteran center who is a Pro Bowl caliber player. Justin Herbert is arguably one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. The Chargers have been able to surround Herbert with plenty of talent over his first 3 years. The Chargers have benefited from having a franchise quarterback in a rookie contract. This is the last season of Herbert being underpaid. The Chargers have picked up Herbert's 5th-year option, and there will be plenty of talk about his upcoming second contract over the next year or 2. For what some people considered a down year, though, Herbert was tremendous. He had career highs actually in completions, attempts, and completion percentage. On the flip side, his yardage, touchdowns, sacks taken, quarterback rating, and QBR all went in the wrong direction. Many will point to the wide receiver injuries as a major contributor to some of Herbert's numbers dropping, and I agree with that assessment. In fantasy football, Herbert finished as the quarterback 8 in points and quarterback 13 in average points per game. I believe that he will be better, and drafters seem to believe this too, as Herbert is the quarterback 7 and the 58th player taken overall, which would make him a 5th-round pick. Herbert's upside is the quarterback 1 in any given year. I think that what you saw last year is his floor. If you get 4 strong players at running back, wide receiver, and tight end in your first 4 rounds, and then you get Herbert in the 5th, you will likely be competing for a fantasy championship. I would recommend targeting Herbert around early if quarterbacks are flying off the draft board. If your competition are loading up on other positions, let Herbert fall to you in the 5th round and enjoy the results. Part of the reason that some of Justin Herbert's dropped last season is because Keenan Allen only played in 10 games and Mike Williams only played in 13 games. And if you look a little deeper, Allen had 2 games where his snap count was in the 20s. So 8 point whatever is what Allen really played. Mike Williams had 1 game where he only played 6 snaps, so he really only was able to contribute in 12 games. If you simply get more participation from these 2 players, the Chargers will be more prolific. In fantasy, Allen was the wide receiver 28 in points, but he was the wide receiver 8 in average points per game. That is a huge difference. Drafters are going right down the middle. His average draft position is wide receiver 18, and he's roughly getting drafted around the 45th pick, which would put him in the 4th round. In many ways, drafting Keenan Allen is one of the hardest decisions that every fantasy manager will have to consider this fall. He is currently 31 and coming off an injury-plagued season. His production on the field warrants that he has not declined at all. Even though he's going in the 4th round, I would probably pass on him in the 4th and hope that I could get him in the 5th or 6th. Mike Williams' 2022 season was a disappointment when you consider how good he was in 2021. On a per-game basis, though, he was almost as efficient last year as he was in 21. Williams was the wide receiver 33 in points and the wide receiver 25 in points per game. He is getting drafted as the wide receiver 28 at position 77 in the 7th round. I'm totally fine with Mike Williams in the 7th round. He can easily exceed that level. Part of my optimism in Williams is because he's in the prime of his career and he has Justin Herbert. The opportunities are there to succeed. To bolster the position for now and the foreseeable future, the Chargers used the 21st overall pick in the draft on Quentin Johnston from TCU. Many draft observers and fantasy football observers were split on this guy before the draft. He is far away from a finished product at 21 years old. His size and athleticism are intriguing as a prospect, but he ended up being smaller and less athletic than people thought he was before the combine. Fortunately for Johnston, he is entering the best possible situation that a wide receiver can enter into. He will be in the same room as 3 wide receivers who have been with the same wide receiver coach since 2021. Speaking of third receivers, third-year wide receiver Joshua Palmer filled in nicely for Allen and Williams last year. His numbers pretty much doubled from his rookie year except for touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 36 in total points and wide receiver 46 in average points per game. If there are any injury issues to Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, you should have plenty of confidence that Joshua Palmer will be a viable fantasy player. If Allen and Williams are completely healthy, Palmer will not be draftable. In fantasy drafts, Johnston is getting drafted at 51 on ESPN.com as the 136th player in the 12th round. I believe that this is too high because I believe that Joshua Palmer will be ahead of Quentin Johnston as a rookie. If this is the case, drafting Johnston in the 12th round is just an unnecessary gamble. Gerald Everett returns to the Chargers for his 2nd season at tight end. Everett's numbers have increased every year of his career, which is a pretty positive sign. Everett was the tight end 15 in points and the tight end 13 in points per game. He is currently the 14th tight end getting drafted. Being in that 13 to 15 range as a tight end makes you a backup in fantasy. Everett is going in the 13th round. If you carry 2 tight ends, he's a pretty safe 2nd tight end. If you don't draft tight ends early and you stream the position with different guys throughout the year, Everett is a guy with some upside because of Justin Herbert, who you might have fill in for a few weeks during the year. Austin Ekeler was the number 1 running back in fantasy football last season. Ekeler is the epitome of the type of dual threat running back that you want in fantasy football. In points per reception leagues, he's an absolute monster. In non-PPR leagues, just subtract 107 points from his total and you'll see the difference. Ekeler is the top running back drafted, and Justin Jefferson is the only player with a higher ADP than him. The only running back who should even be considered in the Austin Ekeler conversation is Christian McCaffrey. Across the board, the lowest Ekeler should go is pick 5. If you get him, enjoy it. Behind Ekeler is Joshua Kelly, who is entering his 4th season from UCLA. 2022 was the first time in his career where he broke the 4 yards per carry mark, so he is improving. The team has been trying to find a good complement to Ekeler to decrease Ekeler's workload, but Kelly has been the best they've been able to find. The Chargers have drafted 2 running backs since they drafted Kelly, with Larry Roundtree and Isaiah Spiller. Between Roundtree and Spiller, they only combined for 87 total yards from scrimmage between them. Kelly is undrafted in fantasy, and he's currently the running back 71. He is someone you should be aware of if anything happens to Ekeler. The fantasy upside of the Chargers offense attracts a lot of fantasy football players to their players. Kellen Moore is the new offensive coordinator in town, coming from Dallas, replacing the much maligned Joe Lombardi. Dallas led the league in pace of play a couple of times, and the aggressiveness and play calling should go up with the Chargers with more. All the Chargers' main weapons are proven. The only serious question about their players is how you value Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in fantasy. The boom or bust potential of these two players will likely win and lose leagues for just about every fantasy league in the country. As a fantasy player, I'm all in on Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. I hope that Allen and Williams drop around a 2 in ADP. Palmer, Everett, and Kelly are not fantasy targets, but they can help you in spots over the course of the year. Don't fall for any Quentin Johnston hype yet. As a rookie, he will have to be more prepared and better than Joshua Palmer to see the field. That may not happen for him as a rookie. The fans of the Chargers have been through a lot over the years. 2022 was no different. With the talent present on this team, the window to win a championship should be there as long as you have Justin Herbert. Whether Brandon Staley is the guy or not will be figured out this year. Staley is 19-15 with one playoff collapse under his belt. If surpassing Kansas City is not viewed as possible, or if Denver passes the Chargers in the AFC West with Sean Payton in town, I expect the franchise to make a change after year 3 of the Staley era. If you like today's coverage of the Chargers offense, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.